and welcome back to the Give and Go. I'm your coach Reynoso here with my boy.
Soltero. What's up, y'all?
I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to you, bro.
Yeah, is
I
that
don't
that why
want to
you're
talk
not
to you.
even here, bro? That's why
I
you
don't
can't
want
sit
to
right in
talk to
front
you,
of me
bro.
right now?
I don't want to talk to you. Let's talk Knicks, bro. Let's talk New
Oh, you want
York
to talk
Knicks
Knicks?
basketball instead. We're an NBA pod now. We're an NBA pod now. I can't do this no more, man. I can't. Inter Milan defeats Barcelona 4-3 and PSG defeats Arsenal 2-1 in the second leg to then go on to the UCL final. We will have Inter Milan going up against PSG. The UCL final won't feature a team from Spain, England, or Germany for the first time in 21 years. And
Damn.
we get two special teams, bro. Two special teams that just completely outmatch their opponent at the end of the day, with Inter Milan pulling off a crazy 7-6 aggregate result, and Arsenal falling short against the
What?
mighty PSG, who look dominant all the way and are set for an incredible UCL final.
Let's start with the greatest match since Argentina against France, Barca Inter. What a game. Words ain't gonna do this justice, bro. We might as well not even try. Just go watch the highlights. Go
Yeah.
relive those moments. That's the best thing you can do if you want to really capture what happened, the greatness that was Barcelona, Inter Milan, one of the greatest games in the San Siro. And what a time to be alive, man. Genuinely, we are blessed as we got one of the craziest games. Barcelona, Inter Milan at the San Siro. But dude, there was just so much unexpected events that happened in this second leg. I could not believe that Inter Milan went up 2-0 again.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe that Barcelona came back from 2 goals again. I
Again.
couldn't believe that Gerard Martin got 2 assists. 2 assists. The left back, who had been criticized all season long, steps in for Balde, gets 2 massive assists. And to add to it, it was Eric Garcia who was on the end of one of them to score a goal with Jules Koundé out injured. What a moment for Garcia, and what a banger, too.
Anger.
And I couldn't believe that big man Francesco Acerbi was the guy to tie it for Inter Milan at the death. I can't believe this game goes to extra time with 6-6 on aggregate. Davide
Come on, man.
Fratesi, you know what happens at the end. He gets the biggest goal of his career. Inter Milan 7-6 aggregate. I can't believe I'm saying it. What a match of football.
This game, I think, was truly gifted to us, bro. Gifted to us from the footballing gods at the end of the day. I know that we had our biases going into this match. We had our predictions, our picks for who we thought was going to go through. But the moment that Acerbi scored that third goal to tie it up in the final 90 seconds of the game, I just knew something special was happening right before my eyes. And once it went into overtime, once it went to extra time, I was completely open to the idea of either team because, man, we saw these guys battle it out with that rainy weather. Those images of Inzaghi on the sideline just screaming like a Roman god, trying to guide his team to a victory. And ultimately, it was Fratesi who scored that game-winning goal to win it for Inter. But you know what's crazy, man? What's crazy is that all it came down to, all this game really came down to, was me asking Barcelona, can you defend for 90 seconds? Can you give me 90 seconds of defense? And you're through the UCL final, bro. I asked Barca, can you defend for 1 minute, man? And they couldn't. And they couldn't, bro.
They
And so
couldn't.
that's what it comes down to for me, man. It comes down to Barca essentially choking the result, Inter Milan taking full advantage, being right there like a snake, ready to bite whenever it's needed, as they have been this entire series. And Inter Milan they rightfully go on as the better team into that final.
I truly think that if they would have played this game for eternity, this game just would have been back and forth until the end of time, bro. I can't believe the amount of goals that were traded between these two sides. They're the perfect foil for each other. Inter Milan absorb pressure perfectly, and they hit out against this high line of Barcelona, which ultimately just couldn't work. Couple things stood out for me in this match, and I really do think if Hansi Flick was just a little bit more conservative, just a little bit more conservative with his line, I do think Barcelona would have gotten through. But it's tough to fully say because one thing I do wish we got to see was a fully healthy Robert Lewandowski.
Yeah.
I said after the first game, his absence was really felt with big man Acerbi and Bisek dominating the box against Barcelona. Ferran Torres, for as good as he is, he's not great at hold-up play. I think if Lewandowski had played all 210 minutes, I do think Barcelona would have scored more goals. I think they would have gotten at least one, if not two more, sending this game 8-6 on aggregate. So I really do think Barcelona get a little unlucky here. Also, the absence of Koundé and Balde, I think, is also just another big miss. Although, once again, Martin and Garcia really stepped up in this game. But yeah, it just came down to Barcelona just not being able to defend at the death. Full credit to Inter Milan. I think we saw some really good performances from them. What really stood out for me was their relentlessness with Inzaghi's tactics. For all 210 minutes, they never stopped playing their style of football. And that really impressed me because you have probably the best offense in Europe outside of PSG attacking you for over 2 hours, and they just never wavered. Yes, they conceded 6 goals, but they hit 6 back. And that really impressed me. What grit and mentality Inter Milan under Inzaghi showed. Di Marco had a better game today, and I think that really showed as well. Barella, very good in the midfield. And for me, the biggest standout, Jan Sommer. Jan Sommer. One of the most underrated keepers. We see him step up time and time again for Switzerland at the Euros, at the World Cup. He's had a quiet club career due to him being at Borussia Mönchengladbach, no disrespect. But finally, he's getting the chance to perform on the highest stage with Inter Milan, and he completely shows up. Some massive saves against Rafinha, against Lamine Yamal. Jan Sommer, what a performance. And I think he's a big reason as to why Inter Milan are through to another final.
Yeah, you're right, man. This matchup did show me that. I think both teams are very similar, not specifically in the style of play, but the fact that they are so relentless about their tactics. Barca is going to die with that high line, with Hansi Flick's ideas, and Inter Milan is going to do the same with Inzaghi's, and it showed in this matchup. I do think the difference maker wasn't that back line, though, bro. Watching this game, that was my same reaction. The way that we've seen Donnarumma dictate results. I mentioned it in our preview of this matchup, right? That Jan Sommer has been doing this since he was Jan Winter, since he was Jan Spring, since he was Jan Fall. Bro, he showed it once again. He was a different player. He had one specifically on Lamine Yamal curving towards the left that I couldn't believe he got his hands on. And then another one, which was on the counter. I don't remember who shot it, but it was a ridiculous save. One of the best we've seen this entire tournament. Jan Sommer adding to that goalkeeping narrative that we've seen this whole tournament, that they can truly dictate the results of these knockout stage matches in the Champions League. So all credit to him. I think he ultimately gave Inter a really big boost defensively because if we really go backline for backline here, bro, they both are pretty exposed and very vulnerable to goals as we saw in this matchup, bro. I mean, Inter conceded 6, man. 6. And I think that's where the conversation of how do they perform in that Champions League final against PSG gets really interesting because in the 90-minute session, just how dependable can this Inter Milan defense truly be in a final setting, being that I still don't think their offense is as good as Barcelona's.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think we've seen over the last 2 matchups with Inter Milan against Bayern and Barcelona that their conservative approach ultimately doesn't work. They got scored on a lot by Bayern, and they didn't have Jamal Musiala. I think they would have conceded more goals if Musiala had played in both matches, and they conceded 6 against Barcelona. And ultimately, it just comes down to their clinicality offensively. Because right now, Martinez, Thuram, Dumfries, add Dumfries in there, are so clinical when they do get the chance. That's why Inter Milan are in this final. They fight, 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 and when they get that one singular chance, they more often than not put it away. That's what really impresses me. But for Barcelona, man, I really do think they're just one defensive midfielder away from winning it all. Like if they had a Rodri, for example, or honestly a Barella doing the dirty work in the defensive midfield, I think they would completely cover up all of their defensive mistakes through Pau Cubarsí and Inigo Martinez, and they would go on to win the Champions League final. They're one player away. One player.
And I think that's what makes kind of, the takeaway from Barcelona specifically really interesting is that they ultimately did not expect to go this far at the beginning of the season. Given the fact that they're destined to probably win La Liga, and then they've already won the Copa del Rey. I think the fact that they were even in contention for a treble or even going to that Champions League final is a really good situation because going into the season, they really didn't add that many players and were just relying on their young stars and the players that they already had from last year in Rafinha and Lewandowski. And so I think for Barcelona, yes, you were very close. The opportunity was there, but I don't think it's nothing to get disappointed about or sad about because
Yeah.
going forward, I see this team being just as strong, man. Like, is there any reason why they can't go this deep next year?
And also consider the fact that Lamine Yamal is going to be 1 year older, and he'll still only just be 18, 19 years old. He's
Yeah, bro.
only going to get better. And I think what we've seen in this Champions League run is honestly one of the best players right now, one of the best players of his generation. I said at the end of that first leg, I think even right now, at his age, he's probably top 2 offensive player in the entire world. Just imagine what Barcelona are going to do with this core, with Hansi Flick in another second year as manager. Very exciting times for Barcelona. And hey, hopefully the Camp Nou opens up because, my God,
True.
if they play in their actual home stadium, I think it's going to be even harder to play in Barcelona.
It is time though that I shift the focus to Inter Milan real quick because football is football, and I ultimately I'm a man. I don't know about you, but I'm a man that respects results. I respect results. Bro, they're in a Champions League final.
Yeah.
They're in a Champions League final. I've doubted them a lot of this way, starting from the group stage, the knockout stages, and especially in this matchup, doubted them. Didn't see how they could do it against this Barcelona side. They proved me wrong. Credit to them. Inter Milan has made it to a Champions League final, their second one in the last 3 years. They remain the most consistent Italian side in European football. Got to give them credit for that.
Yeah.
And they have a chance. They have a chance at lifting a UEFA Champions League trophy for the first time since 2009. Will they do it? Will they get doubted again by me? We will see. We will see. But for now, I want to give them that praise and that credit because they've done it, bro. They did it in a matchup where a lot of people picked against them, in a matchup where they needed a lot of things to go their way, standout performances. Di Marco still got cooked. Varela was still looking kind of lost in that midfield at times.
Yeah.
They still figured it out, bro. They figured it out. Inzaghi, masterclass. Taremi with that layoff to Patesi. I mean, people showed up for them, bro. Thuram had a great series.
Yeah.
Inter Milan has done it. I got to give them my credit. Really good, really good team that could potentially lift the European Championship.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this version of Inter Milan because I do think they're better than their last iteration. It's very similar, though. Their midfield isn't fun to watch. Let's just be honest. Especially when you see it against Barcelona's midfield, who play fluid, beautiful football. Inter Milan are just pure grit and very decisive when they do get the ball. But it leads to ultimately not a lot of fluidity, not a lot of possession. But they make up for it with the clinical offense, with the pairing of Martinez and Thuram. I think it's better than when Lukaku was there. And you have the veteran experience on the wings with Di Marco. You can bring on Carlos Augusto, who's not great defensively, but he can provide a really lethal offensive pass. And then on the other side, you have still one of the best offensive wingbacks in the game in Dumfries. So this team's very exciting. I do think their center backs are weak, though, as they've proven against Bayern Munich and Barcelona. But when you have Jan Sommer, maybe it makes up for it. So I like this team a lot better than when they played Manchester City. I think they are actually improved, but they're going to have to get through, I think, one of the best teams in the world because joining them in that Champions League final is none other than Paris Saint-Germain, my friend.
You have the floor.
When the world doubted them, including you, because you sat right here across from me a month ago and you tried to gaslight me, saying that PSG wasn't good enough to go to the final. Break, timeout.
Oh, my side. I'm playing, bro. I'm playing. Go ahead. I just don't want to hear this PSG praise, bro. I don't want to hear it.
But PSG once again proved all of the doubters wrong, beating Arsenal 3-1 on aggregate. Ultimately, a very convincing win, maybe not comfortable because Arsenal did fight over both legs, but ultimately they were the inferior club against Paris. But what really stands out with this PSG side is their ability to weather the storm. At Anfield, against Liverpool, one of the best clubs in the world this season, they get the result 1-0. They push it to penalties and they go through. At Villa Park, when they were getting scored on left and right, it was Donnarumma who made massive saves to keep PSG alive and push them through by 1 goal.
Yeah.
Today, against Arsenal, when Arsenal had the perfect 20-minute start to open the match, Donnarumma again, coming up big against Martin Odegaard, coming up big against the rest of Arsenal. And it ended up being Fabian Ruiz who got the goal to open the deadlock against Arsenal. Arsenal come back in the second half. They try. They get that goal. Bukayo Saka misses a really big chance. Somehow, some way,
Hey man,
PSG
if he makes
find
that,
a way.
if he
They
makes
find a
that,
way. They find a way to weather the storm. And when you beat Liverpool, when you beat Aston Villa, when you beat Arsenal, some of the best offenses that the Premier League has to offer and that Europe has to offer in general, you deserve to be in the Champions League final.
and I just read today that they also beat Man City in the group stages.
There we
So,
go.
bro, they're taking now English teams like no other. And I said it. If they defeat Arsenal with this path that they have been on, it's not so much about me giving them credit. It's much more about giving them the respect that they are. This is one of the greatest teams of all time. This is one of the greatest teams of all time. That's where I'm at. And so forget a finals preview. Forget all of that. PSG is playing some of the most beautiful football that we have seen, and it is undeniable now for me, given the trajectory that they have been on and what they just did to this Arsenal team who couldn't break them, bro. They just couldn't break them for as close as they got, especially in those first 10 minutes. I really thought Arsenal was going to do something special. And I initially criticized PSG in that first leg for not finishing off their opportunities to expand the gap to expand the gap so that Arsenal wouldn't have those chances. They got close, but once again, they showed that they just won't break when it truly matters.
Yeah.
And talk about Fabian Ruiz, man. Fabian Ruiz, I mean, obviously, I've been giving a lot of praise to Vitinha, to Joao Neves, but the fact that Fabian Ruiz has been there as a sturdy midfielder, consistently playing there. We've talked about Barcelona and their Spanish players and the potential that they had at winning a Euros and a UEFA Champions League. Now that they're all eliminated, bro, there's one Spaniard left. One Spaniard left that could go on and win the Euros and then follow that up with the Champions League, and it's Fabian Ruiz. It's Fabian Ruiz who scored an absolute belter. Yes, it got deflected, but still, the shot was very, very good. It was a momentum shifting type goal because with that 2-0 victory, I think it really hurt Arsenal, bro. It really hurt them for like the following 50 minutes, and we didn't really see them wake up until like the last 20. And I think Fabian Ruiz was just a big reason for that. So credit to him, Donnarumma once again, and also shout out to the center back pairing, bro. I gotta give them their shout out because the fullbacks are obviously incredible. But I think the fact that Marquinhos is playing this well, this consistently, is a surprise to me. It's a surprise to me because we've seen him time and time again, especially in this tournament, pull off some little mistake, pull off a decision that ends up biting them and ends up costing them the match. It feels like finally Marquinhos has turned into a very solid veteran presence with Pacho alongside him that is made for just a very reliable center back pairing that allows those fullbacks to go up and do their magic, and they just take care of business in that back line. Mix it in with Donnarumma, you got the best defense remaining in the Champions League, in my opinion, and arguably one of the best defense we've seen throughout the entire tournament. And also, what do you think? The decision to not start Dembele, bro, was that obviously he's a little. I saw he's a little injured, but felt like Enrique was flexing a little bit, man.
That's how I saw it. Obviously, Dembele was a little injured. He didn't want to fully risk him, but I think Enrique kind of knew that they were going to somehow pull this off.
Yeah.
They did the hard work. They did the dirty work in that first leg. Now just come home, give the same performance, and PSG were going to figure it out, and that's exactly what happened. But, dude, I got to echo that Fabian Ruiz praise, bro, because one of the most beautiful chest touches to ghost past a player that I've ever seen, and then the volley to finish. I mean, come on, bro. Come on. That midfield's so fun to watch, and when they're locked in, they're just as fluid as Barcelona. They're just as fluid as Arsenal's midfield. That's what's so cool about PSG is they have so much offensive presence, and it's ultimately unstoppable. Yes, there's been tight games, but they always figure out how to outscore their opponent. Because if Dembele's not scoring, you have Kvaratskhelia. If he's not scoring, you have Barcola, who had honestly a mid-game. Doué also was kind of all right today. But it doesn't matter because if your front line's not operating, you have Fabian Ruiz to pick up the pieces. And if the midfield's not scoring, well, then bring in Hakimi, who had a beautiful curler today. Nuno Mendes also with some brilliant finishing throughout the UEFA Champions League this season. There's simply too many weapons when it comes to facing PSG. You ultimately will succumb to it. But you're right. I also want to echo that central defensive praise that you just gave out, because with that much offensive power, there's so much responsibility with Marquinhos, Pacho, and Donnarumma specifically.
Mm-hmm.
But all three of those players have come up big. Donnarumma, I'd say, the most out of those three players. They have to do so much defending. They have to take on a lot, because ultimately there are holes in this PSG defense, but they figure it out. They outscore their opponent. And I truly think this is one of the most complete teams in Europe. They've been the best team in Europe for this entire 2025 season.
Entertain me here. If they go on to lift the Champions League, where do they rank in the last 10 Champions League winners?
I'm going to have to think on this one.
You got a good Man City side.
Great Man City side.
Like 2018, I believe, 2019.
Mm-hmm.
You got the Madrid side still sneaking their way in there in 2015, I think.
Last year's Madrid side was really good, man.
Yeah.
Last year's Madrid side was really good because you had the best right back in the world, Dani Carvajal. The defense with Rudiger was honestly unbreakable. Toni Kroos with his swan song, and he was still playing like he was 24, 25 years old. Vinicius was the best winger in the world. I just think Madrid last year they're a little bit more responsible with their defense, and they still had the offense that PSG has. I would love to see that. Madrid last year against this version of PSG, I'd put PSG maybe in the top three. Because I'd probably go Madrid last year and then Prime City above this PSG side.
Well, what that Madrid team has right now is the fact that they comfortably won that final, man.
Yeah.
They comfortably won at the end of the day. And you could honestly kind of say the same for Manchester City. Obviously, just 1-0, but they were looking like the better team in that final. Yeah. I need to see how PSG performs against Inter Milan, and I don't want to push Inter Milan aside, but I just need to see what happens in those 90 minutes. But it's PSG that ends up going through, and I'm thinking Ballon d'Or watch, right, with Reynoso Mountain, just where I'm at after seeing these semifinal matches, that the stock of these PSG players has just gone up tremendously, man. And we might get some new names on Reynoso Mountain. I'm talking about names like Kvaratskhelia. I'm talking names like Fabian Ruiz. Maybe one of these center backs gets in there, bro. Basically the whole damn team, man. Because I do think those Barca players take a slight hit. I think the players from Arsenal take a slight hit. And Inter Milan are the other team that I think get a bump in their stock as well. It's just crazy, though. We're getting a crazy series here, man. We had mentioned in the preview of this semifinal that we were going to get 4 amazing storylines going into that UEFA Champions League final. The fact that it's PSG versus Inter Milan, it's a team seeking their first ever Champions League victory after investing so much money and signing so many big name players, but still falling short, versus a team in Inter Milan that's looking to reclaim the throne since 2010, dude. And I'm just saying, whichever team it is, the story will be great, and I can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah, it's a great point. I really like this Inter Milan side, but in a similar vein, I think this is the best PSG side we've ever seen. I really do think so. I mentioned it in our preview for the semifinals. There's no Zlatan, there's no Neymar, there's no Messi, there's no Mbappe, but I still think this is the best collection of 11 players PSG has ever had. It's why I'm backing them. It's why I think they've been the best team since January in Europe, and you just see it on the pitch. They're nearly complete, and I do see them as the better side against Inter Milan. But just to kind of finish on the PSG-Arsenal matchup, I think Arsenal are one player away from winning it all as well. In the similar way that Barcelona are one defensive midfielder away, I think Arsenal honestly played pretty well against PSG. The only thing they could not do was score a damn goal. That's it. Yeah. The chance creation was there. The defense was ultimately there. Yes, you're going to concede against PSG. That's inevitable. But Arsenal, if they just had a finisher, if they just had a natural 9, a Lautaro Martinez, for example, or maybe a Julian Alvarez, Arsenal would win the Prem, they'd win the Champions League. All they needed was a finisher, and I do think they would have at least pushed it to extra time against PSG.
That's the difference, man, between them winning trophies and doing what they've done this season, which is going trophyless yet again, man.
Yeah.
going trophyless yet again. And I will say this, right? It does feel like Arsenal's close. It feels like Barca is close. We do have to keep in mind that we have a Liverpool team that unfortunately had to face off against this amazing PSG side in the round of 16. That's probably not going to happen again, drawings wise, next time that we see this Champions League iteration happen. And we're also talking about Real Madrid too, man. I don't think we'll see a season this bad from Madrid
Mm.
in the following 5 years. It's probably as worse as it's going to get. So for as close as these teams got, I do think it's important to remember that there's some really feisty teams out there, some very good teams that could potentially get in the way of Arsenal making another big run the way that we saw today, or Barcelona even. So that's what kind of hurts about what happened for both of those clubs is that they actually got really, really close, man.
So
And
close.
they ultimately were just a player short. And looking back, I'm fearful that the fans will see this as an opportunity that was missed.
So you got Inter in the final, yeah? You can't go PSG, bro. I'm not gonna let you. I'm not gonna let you, bro. At Liverpool, still not convinced. Villa, still not convinced. And then going into Arsenal,
In 90
you
minutes,
still
it's a
weren't
different game.
convinced.
It's a different game in 90 minutes, bro. We're not playing 180 minutes no more, man. We're not playing. Where's the final being played at? Is it in Munich?
It's in Munich, baby.
Here's what we'll do. Here's what we'll do. It's what? It's May 7th? Yeah. The final's on May 31st. We'll do an official preview a week before because you never know with injuries. You
Fair,
never know
fair.
with with what could happen, in the following 2 weeks. But right now, because I have neglected, honestly, both clubs, I'm gonna give my support to Inter Milan. Fuck it. I'm giving it to
You
them.
should.
They can have it. I'm going Inter Milan as of right now. Will I switch up? Potentially. Potentially. I'm prone to switching up. But for right now, I want to give my love and my credit to Inter Milan because I do feel like I didn't give them enough credit this entire tournament, and they proved me wrong. They're in a Champions League final, brother, 90 minutes away from lifting the biggest trophy in European football against a team from the Farmers League, bro. A team from a Farmers League, man, from the fifth best league in the world. I mean, they shouldn't even be scared, man. This should be easy work. You're not gonna respond to
I don't
that?
respond to that, bro. I'm not responding to that.
Hey, you saw
Have some
that.
respect for PSG. That's all I've been asking for the last 4 months. So I'll wait. I will gladly wait the next 3 weeks to see what you have to say. But all I'm saying, PSG's winning this thing at the end of this month. It's going to be PSG's. The Champions League trophy for the first time is going to Paris.
They asked Luis Enrique after the game, like, what did you think about defeating like three straight Premier League teams in a row? And he sarcastically said, "I thought we were a Farmers League. I thought we were a Farmers League." And I was like, "Damn, I like that attitude, man." Enrique
Yeah,
really
bro.
proving a lot of people wrong. I I'm going Inter Milan, but I think you can read what I'm saying behind these eyes. You can
All right, I
tell what I'm
got
saying
you.
behind these eyes.
I got you.
But I'm going Inter Milan. That's all, folks. Make sure to let us know what you thought about these matchups, these semifinal matches, crazy results, and we will be doing an official UEFA Champions League final preview a week before the match. But until then, give us your reactions down below, and we'll see y'all very soon. Peace.
Peace.